La la la, hey, hey, yeah, yeah.
Well, Derek, I've been behind your back looking to bring someone in to chit-chat with us.
What's the problem?
I've brought in a mediator, trainer, facilitator, and organizational conflict consultant.
You think we have some conflict?
I think we have issues that we need to address. But you know, it's the holiday season coming up, and a lot of families have issues that they need addressed. So we've brought in some help. Ruth Sirman joins us. It's wonderful to have you, Ruth. Thank you so much for being here. We understand there's nothing you can do to help us. Everyone's been trying.
Well, I would say that it's very unusual for two people to need all four roles, the mediator, the trainer, the facilitator, and the organizational conflict specialist. Typically, I would use one or the other, but all four are available if you find that would be useful.
Well, Ruth,
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the truth to you being here is we are going to talk about the fact that the holidays are stressful.
Absolutely.
And I want to know, is there a lot of truth to that this is the most stressful time of year for people?
I think conflict pervades people's lives at all times. But typically, whenever we are under stress, whether it's with the situation or whether it's just that there's a lot of other stuff going on, it makes it more difficult to deal with. So if you're in the middle of a relationship problem, then everything is bigger. If you're in the middle of a problem at work or your workload is really heavy, it's more difficult to deal with whatever you're struggling with. And think about what happens in the holiday seasons, and many people get totally caught up in everything has to be perfect, everything has to be wonderful, you know, the house has to be spotless, the kids have to be, you know, the gifts all have to be wrapped, everything, and so we put these amazing amounts of stress on ourselves.
What are the main causes of stress? Is it usually a big problem or all these tiny problems that build up within us?
Yes.
Both.
Yeah, I like that
Good
answer. Yeah, yes.
Depends on the situation, it depends on the people. You know, when we're talking human beings, if you talk and you do research on some of the things that have been looked at, Peter Fryer talks about people being complex adaptive systems. When we're in a situation, I take in information about it, I process it, I think about it, I decide what I'm going to do with it, and I spew information back out, but I also act on what I've decided. And then you, in that dance that we're in a relationship, take in what's coming from me and everything else around us, and you process it, and you think about it, and you filter it, and then you act on it, and so on. The dance that we have going may not necessarily be a particularly constructive dance.
Well, they always seem to be two different stories.
I was
right?
going to say, or to the same music. Maybe
Actually, my grandmother would say there are three stories. There's yours, there's mine, and there's what really happened.
Right.
Right.
And so as a result, typically we tell ourselves a story when we get into a conflict. And one thing that I have noticed is highly unusual for anyone to tell their story about what they see happening with them as the villain.
True.
Oh, right.
Typically, we paint ourselves as the righteously screwed victim.
Yeah,
You know,
very
how
true.
could you? Well, think about it. When was the last time you heard somebody saying, you know, I was just walking down the street and for absolutely no reason, I hauled off and hit him.
Yeah, that rarely happens.
Yeah.
You always
I hit him
always
because,
have,
because.
Right,
exactly.
Right.
By the same token, how often have you heard somebody say, listen, I was just sitting there minding my own business and the halo is getting brighter and brighter, and look what they did to me. You know, so we have that tendency to portray ourselves as the person who has been wronged in
Right.
whatever goes on. And it's been said that in a conflict, everybody feels like they got hit first.
Should we avoid it? I mean,
No.
especially coming up to the holiday season, it's often this is a once-a-year thing. And when conflict arises, should we avoid it? Should we tackle it dead on? How does somebody go about it?
Well, it's interesting because I think the better our conflict management skills are, the more successful we are in our relationships, in our careers, in our families, and so on. It's a critical skill, and even in large organizations now, it's actually becoming a core competency. So if you're in a management position, chances are you're being assessed to some degree on how good you are at dealing with difficult situations and the conflicts that arise between you and your employees, between your employees and themselves and others. And there's this piece around how you do that. And typically, most of us aren't actually born knowing how to do that. It's
Right.
a learned skill.
And so can you give us some pointers on what we could do, what we could take into our holidays with our families and viewers at home, or what maybe one or two things that we can do to make it better?
Well,
or improve, I should say?
absolutely. I think the first thing is that assumptions are not facts. And we're really good at human beings as at looking at a situation and assuming we know what's going on. We assume we know what the other person is thinking. So they only did that to make me mad. Maybe. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, there are very few people in this world who lie awake at night dreaming up ways to make your life miserable.
Yeah, very
I mean,
true.
that's just the reality. There's a level of arrogance in saying the world revolves around me. And it's one of the things that we talk about in the courses that we teach all the time is, can you take a step back? Can you be objective in looking at what's going on? And watch yourself in the dance as well as the other person.
Is that the key thing? The first thing you should do is sort of take a time out in your own mind and assess the situation.
If you can step back from that assumption that you know what the other person is thinking and what their motivation is, and if you can take that that distance that says, I need to, rather than jumping to a conclusion, because my grandmother used to say that 95% of the time when we jump to conclusions, we're jumping off the wrong side of the dock and there's rarely any water on that side.
It's so true.
If you think about what happens when we jump to conclusions, that we write that story and we write it as fact, and then we close to anything else, because that is our story. And the more often we tell that story to ourselves or to other people, the more entrenched it becomes.
Right.
And so as a result, while I'm telling myself my story, what are you doing? You're telling yourself a story about what's going on as well. So what it takes is somebody to say, hang on a second, I need to understand. 3 most useful words in the English language. Help me understand where you're coming from. And then shut up.
Listen. Right.
Because you
Ruth,
can't listen and talk at the same time.
you obviously completely know what you're talking about. You're going to be a lifesaver, I think, to people around the holiday season. We want to mention that you have 2 workshops coming up. One tonight, Friday, November
Absolutely.
23rd, and Monday, November 26th. We've seen what you can do. You're obviously going to be a great speaker. We certainly thank you for coming and chatting with us here today.
Well, thank you. And if anybody's interested in the courses, the website is up on the screen there. And please check us out. The course we're doing tonight is actually a fundraiser for CHIO.
Terrific.
And so
Wonderful.
we've waived the $49 tuition fee. You can come and take a 3-hour conflict management course for free. Find out what your conflict blueprint is. And then that will help in the holidays for sure, because the more you know about who you are, the more adept you will be at being able to recognize situations and deal with them.
Perfect.
So check out the website, and we'd love to see you.
Thank you. We want to show your T-shirts there
Yes,
as well.
these are
That
great.
They are fantastic. Can they get these at the workshops?
They can get them at the workshop. They can also get them online.
I love it.
These were designed by a graphics design student that we know, and he's done an amazing job. The course on Monday is actually called I'm Okay, It's Everybody Else Who Needs Help.
Yeah, that's what this says on here. I'm okay. It's everyone else who needs help. I think I'm going to have this one for myself. We'll be right back after this with soprano Maria and our voice lesson.
Oh dear,
Uh-oh.
I'm a little
Thank you so much.
scared about that one.